Good morning. My name is Justin Viller with the Committee of 70. We are a good government, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization based in Philadelphia. But today we're going across the state to speak, to have our next installation of our student candidate interview series for Studio C70. And today we're very excited to have Judge Craig Stevens, who is running for Allegheny County Court of Common Pleas. And he'll be interviewed by 12th grade students in Miss Temmie's AP U.S. History class. Is that right? From Baldwin High School.
Government, AP
AP
government.
Government, apologies, at Baldwin High School. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Temmie. And thank you very much, Judge Stevens, for being here. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, we're very excited, Judge Stevens, for you to be here. Do you want to do a little introduction first, and then we have a ton of questions for you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Craig Stevens, and I'm one of the many candidates for the Court of Common Pleas in Allegheny County. I currently serve as a magisterial district judge in the Green Tree, Scott Township, Heidelberg area, which is like the southwestern part of the county. I've been a magisterial district judge for 10 years, and I've presided over approximately 50,000 cases as a magisterial district judge. We are the first level of the judiciary in the Pennsylvania court system. So we handle any cases that come in, any type of traffic violations. We process all criminal cases, which begin with a person's arrest through their preliminary arraignment and then their preliminary hearing. And then we make a decision at the preliminary hearing, if there's a hearing, to hold the charges for common pleas court. Magisterial district judges also have the role of handling any civil disputes and landlord-tenant disputes with the jurisdictional monetary amount of $12,000. We also handle school truancy cases, code enforcement violations. We also perform marriage ceremonies and administer the oath to elected officials, police officers, firefighters, and whatnot as part of our role as magisterial district judges. We have 6-year terms. We are required to run every 6 years to get reelected in our position as magisterial district judges. So basically that is an overview of what I currently do as a district judge. I have a background as an attorney for many years, practicing. Most of the time was spent as an assistant Allegheny County solicitor for the Allegheny County Law Department, where I handled a variety of different matters. I was assigned as an attorney in the children, youth, and families, where I handled child abuse cases where children were abused and neglected. I also handled cases through the Orphans Division, mental health commitment hearings and guardianships. I did work in the Civil Division, handling tax appeal matters, taxation matters, general litigation. I was also the attorney for the Allegheny County Ethics Board. So you may have some background information about me if you looked at my website. But that's basically my practice as an attorney. And then I also served as a local commissioner in Scott Township for 20 years prior to getting elected by my constituents as a magisterial district judge. I am highly recommended by the Allegheny County Bar Association. The Bar Association comes out with ratings for judicial candidates. The 3 ratings, the highest is highly recommended, and then recommended, and then not recommended. So that is based on a questionnaire and an interview with members of the Allegheny County Judiciary Committee. They look at your experience and your involvement in the community and your reputation as an attorney, and they found me to be highly recommended. So that's basically an overview. There are 22 candidates running on the Democratic ballot for 8 spots in Allegheny County. There are 6 candidates that have cross-filed. I was not one of them, but 6 candidates have cross-filed on the Republican ballot as well. What you're permitted to do as a candidate for the Court of Common Pleas, that you are permitted to cross-file because it's considered a nonpartisan position. As you are for a magisterial district judge, you are permitted to cross-file.
you. We do have our first question from Anmol. Go ahead, talk to them.
My question was, what inspired you to pursue a career in law and public service, and what advice would you give to a young person who wants to make a difference in their community?
Well, that's a good question. I've always been involved in public service. As I mentioned, I was involved in my community as a commissioner for 20 years. And I've been active with some nonprofit organizations. It inspired me to go into the law. Is my older brother's an attorney, and he practices in New York City. And I knew when I was a freshman in college that I was going to go to law school and pursue a career in the law. So public service is very important to me. And when I go to the schools to talk to the students, I tell them to, get involved in your community. You can make a difference. In fact, in the law, you have a broad range of things that you can do. I've chosen to go the public service route, being an attorney for Allegheny County, and then pursuing a career in the judiciary as a magisterial district judge. And I think that, expanding on that, I'd like to, obviously pursue that to the Court of Common Pleas. I think with my experience and my background, my life experience, my legal experience, I can make a difference at the Court of Common Pleas. So that's what I would advise, the students today, young people that are pursuing a career. Having a career as an attorney is an excellent opportunity to do a variety of different things to make a difference.
So on your website, it mentions that you've handled a plethora of different cases throughout your career, ranging from criminal cases, civil cases, traffic violations, arraignments. Is there a specific type of case that you prefer? And could you elaborate on why?
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
As you mentioned, I do handle a variety of different cases. The thing I like about my job is we get such a variety of different things that we do. Like one day we actually have traffic hearings that we schedule. One day is what's considered our criminal day, where we have all our criminal cases and our preliminary hearings. One day is our civil landlord tenant day. So we get a variety of different cases. In each case is unique on its facts. So I don't know if I have a favorite type thing. I just enjoy all the cases that appear in front of me. It's nice that we get a variety and we're not doing the same thing, every day. We get to, obviously I get to meet a lot of different people in my role. Police officers come in and people, that, are cited or charged with the crime, and, witnesses come through and appear before me, and attorneys. So I could tell you that, everybody that comes in front of me, I treat everybody with respect and dignity. Everybody has an opportunity to present their case. I'm considered very fair, and I weigh all the evidence for each case, and I make an informed decision.
Another question. What are some typical aspects of your day-to-day job that you enjoy?
What I enjoy about my job is that every day it's something different. As I mentioned, a variety of cases that come in. I enjoy it. Obviously I have a good staff. I have a secretary and two clerks that assist me. And I enjoy covering for I've covered in other districts. So I do a lot of work at what's called Pittsburgh Municipal Court. It's kind of the central court. It's located downtown, next to the jail, and they have hearings every day down there. So I'm assigned to work down there a couple days a week. So one day I might do, preliminary arraignments where somebody gets arrested and they have to get processed, and you set the bail, advise them of their right to counsel, tell them when their next court date is, which is their preliminary hearing, and you set their bail, whether they get released or they have to stay. I also have covered different courts. I've covered the Baldwin area. I believe that's Judge Kaiser. I've covered different magisterial courts throughout Allegheny County. There's 46 magisterial districts in Allegheny County. It's a big county. So I've covered a good many of those courts, just filling in, volunteering to help when the judge is on vacation, or we have to go to school every year for updates in Harrisburg for a week. So, or somebody's not well or has an emergency. If I'm able to cover, I'll cover. So I like that aspect of my job, because our jurisdiction is all of Allegheny County as a magisterial judge. So we could sign a search warrant or an arrest warrant. If we're assigned to another court, we would be the judge to handle cases that day, whether they're traffic cases or criminal cases or landlord-tenant or civil cases. So that's what I enjoy the most about my job, the variety and the flexibility that I have to cover different courts in different areas.
What made you decide that now was the right time to run in this election, and what do you hope to accomplish in the Court of Common Pleas?
Well, I think it's the right time for me to run because of my experience. 10 years now as a magisterial district judge. So I have the judicial experience. Many years as an attorney. So I have the legal experience. Many years of public service in the community. Many years of life experience. So I think all of those things combined, I'm at the right point in my career where I'm qualified, and I can make a difference at the Court of Common Pleas. The Court of Common Pleas consists of 4 divisions. And if you get elected, the president judge will assign you to one of those divisions. So we can end up going to the family division, the criminal division, the civil division, or orphans division. I believe I have experience in all of those divisions as an attorney, and I would be prepared to start anywhere. Like I said, in the family division, many years as an attorney for children, youth, and families. In the civil division, many years of civil litigation, and in the orphans division as a mental health attorney for the county and handling guardianships, and then in the criminal division, my years as a district judge handling thousands of criminal cases. So I can make a difference. I think I'd have a positive impact, and I bring my life experiences and my legal experiences to the bench.
So you mentioned earlier that you only decided to run on the Democratic Party's ballot. Why'd you choose to only run for the Democratic Party and not on both ballots?
Well, it's to get on each ballot, you need at least 500 signatures, and you probably need to have a cushion of at least 600 or 700 signatures. Unfortunately, we just were not able to get enough signatures to get on the Republican ballot. It was very difficult to do it in a 3-week period. We were really focused on getting on the Democratic ballot, which obviously we were able to do that with over, I think I had close to 800 signatures. Came up a little short on the Republican ballot, but I am doing a write-in on the Republican ballot, because there's still 2 slots that were not filled. So only 6 of the 22 candidates running filed on the Republican ballot. So to do a write-in vote, I need at least 500 registered Republicans to write my name in. So it's essentially the same thing as getting the signatures to get on. You can still get the write-in votes on May 20th, and they can be anywhere, registered Republican, anywhere in Allegheny County. So we are trying to get those write-in votes to get on the Republican ballot as well.
My last question would be, what's it called? How busy are you now during campaign season?
Very busy. Time is the most precious thing right now. Time it is just, it's a big county. It covers a lot of areas. So I'm still working as in, my day job as a district judge. Most of my evenings are filled either canvassing or going to different events. There's events pretty much every night. On the weekends, I've been, canvassing and door knocking sometimes with some other candidates, sometimes with myself and my campaign manager. We use what's called a vote builder access database, and we download it into a minivan app, and it's very convenient. You're able to get the names of people that you're going to be knocking on the door, and speaking with these folks. You know that they're going to vote because we have the data that they pretty much vote or consistently. So it's been very busy since November, when we're not permitted to actively campaign as district judges until right after the general election. So I forget the date. I think it was November 5th or 6th or something. So I started actively campaigning right after the general election last November, and it's pretty much been nonstop. And it was very, very hectic from a period of the middle of January right up through the beginning of March, when some nights you have 5 or 6 meetings throughout the county that you have to go to, committee meetings and different events. And what has really helped in the last few years with technology is the Zoom meetings like we're doing today. Whereas, we'd literally be going from one event to the other. My campaign manager would be driving, and I'd be able to jump on a Zoom meeting for another committee, which would obviously save time, because in Allegheny County, you may have a meeting in like Baldwin, and then at the same time, there's a meeting in Hampton. So they're kind of far apart from each other, or vice versa. You might be up in O'Hara Township and have a meeting in South Park, which isn't easy to get to. So the Zoom meetings, a couple of the committees would have Zoom meetings, which would really help, because if you have five events in an evening, 2 of them might be a Zoom. That would really save on time. You're able to just get on the Zoom and talk to people that way. But it's been very busy, and the election is coming up. We're less than 2 weeks now, May 20th.
In order to follow up on that, Judge, how is it normal to have 22 candidates for these 8 positions, or is that large number, or is that normal?
Well, this is not a normal cycle with this many openings. Normally there's on average 2, 3, maybe 4 openings. Every 2 years there's an election for common pleas court judges if there's openings. So for instance, 2 years ago in 2023, there was only 1 opening. This year, it just so happens that there's 8 openings because a couple of judges have already retired. Some of them have retired early and taken senior status. Unfortunately, one of the judges passed away, and some of the other judges are facing mandatory retirement at the end of this year. That is age 75 in Pennsylvania. So any judicial officer in Pennsylvania has to retire at the end of the calendar year when they turn 75. So that includes magisterial judges, Commonwealth Court judges, Superior Court judges, and Supreme Court judges, and the common pleas court judges. Now, some judges are able to take senior status at a certain age, and they continue as a senior judge. They're no longer commissioned judges, so their seat opens up. So in 2021, there ended up being 10 openings. That was another big year for a lot of openings for retirements and whatnot. In 2021, I think there was 39 or 40 candidates that ran for 10 spots. It may have been 9. I'll take it back. There was 9 or 10 spots in 2021. So 22 candidates, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, considering the number of openings, there could have easily been 30 candidates. So 22 is probably an average number for this number of seats. Now, if there's only 3 or 4 seats, then I'd say, yeah, 22 candidates is a lot. But given the number of openings, 22 candidates is probably actually a little on the low end, because a lot of us expected to be probably 30 candidates or more, but there's only 22 candidates. And nobody has dropped out of this race, because sometimes you'll have a couple candidates who do drop out at some point. There's a time period when you can drop out, but nobody has dropped out.
As a judge who has presided over so many cases, what do you think young people should understand about the legal system to help them stay informed and empowered?
Well, I think that young people need to understand that obviously there's consequences for behavior. What I do is when I get and I do get students that come in front of me periodically for different things, underage drinking or tobacco on school property or disorderly conduct. What I typically do with the younger students, and sometimes I have driving infractions to speeding and whatnot, overtaking a school bus, for example. Typically, what I do with the younger students or the younger people is that I use what's called an alternative adjudication program, which involves community service. So community service, I will have somebody do maybe 5, 10, 15 hours of community service at a nonprofit organization like a church, a food bank, a shelter, maybe with a fire department, where they would do the community service hours and they would get credit for. They would bring a letter back to the court, and typically I would dismiss the charge or the case. Sometimes with the driving offenses, I'll have a student. If it's a student, I'll have them take some type of driving course, or do something online, some type of driving course or driving refresher course, so they understand I want the younger people to understand that there's consequences for their behavior, and that their actions have their decisions have consequences, and it could affect their future if it's a serious enough charge. So I want them to understand that, and sometimes it's a letter of apology, or like I said, community service, or some type of driving course, and I feel that that's sufficient, so they understand that what they've done is wrong, and a lot of times the case could be dismissed or reduced charge. So moving forward, I mean, the younger folks have to understand that they are our future, and that they're obviously encouraged to be engaged in their community, and to get out and register to vote, and public service, and that you can make a difference, because you're the next generation. So you can have a positive impact and make a difference moving forward.
Hi, my question was, how do you plan to continue fostering trust and transparency between the judiciary and the communities you serve?
Well, I know my approach is that, my courtroom is obviously everybody's treated with dignity and respect. And, these are the courtrooms open to the public. I encourage, like when I talk to the schools, I encourage the students to come down and visit the court, sit in on a case, just to get an idea of how things operate. So, I mean, that's transparency. We're not courts of record, the magisterial district courts. We'll have a preliminary hearing will be recorded by the defense attorney or the public defender and the district attorney. And the reason for that recording is if the charges are held for court, there is a recording at the preliminary hearing. They have to ask for permission to record. But other than that, for the most part, we're not courts of record, which means that the proceedings are not recorded except for a preliminary hearing. Cameras are not permitted in the courtroom, but that's, obviously that's not my decision. But people are permitted to use their phones in court for evidentiary matters, to show something, maybe a text thread that's relevant to the case, or maybe an invoice or a receipt that's relevant to a civil matter. Weddings are permitted to be, with the exception of ceremonial weddings and swearing-ins, phones are permitted, and you're permitted to record those. But as much I can be, I'm as transparent as much as I can be within the confines of the rules. And I always encourage, especially the students, to come in and observe the hearings and see how things operate, at least at the magisterial level. I mean, we're right in the community, and we're dealing with issues that involve people that, you know, live in the community. I live in the community, so and I'm appreciative of that.
Hi. My question was, what are some misconceptions people have about the legal system?
I think some misconceptions people have about the law is that, you know, people have rights. You know, if you get pulled over, you know, they advise you, you know, that if the officer gives you a ticket, that you have a right to file and ask for a hearing before the district judge. People need to understand that, you know, they have a right to have an attorney. You know, if they can't afford an attorney, the public defender's office will provide free legal assistance to them and represent them in criminal hearings. One of the misconceptions maybe is that, you know, things are stacked against people, that, you know, but we have a process where, you know, anybody can file an appeal from a decision that they're not satisfied with at my level. People have a right to, you know, obviously have different services help them. I know with landlord tenant cases, there's rental assistance programs that can help people that are falling behind and unable to pay their rent. There's, you know, neighborhood legal services provides assistance. I mentioned the public defender's office. And I think one of the misconceptions about judges sometimes is that, you know, judges are not approachable, and they're not going to listen. They're not going to understand. That judges can just do whatever they want. But, you know, I know from where I sit, you know, I live in the community too. So, and, you know, I listen to every case, and everybody has an opportunity to present their case. And I still have to operate too within the rules of evidence, and make decisions based on what's presented in front of me. So I have to make informed decisions. So I think those are some of the misconceptions about, you know, the legal system, and that, you know, but people do have rights, and people have appeal rights. People have access to different services and different legal assistance. I know that the Allegheny County Bar Association has a lawyer referral service. There's certainly plenty of attorneys in this area that I'm sure you've seen constant advertisements, you know, billboards, and, you know, messages on social media. So it's good, you know, but today obviously with social media and Facebook and different social platforms, you know, people can reach out and get the assistance they need.
My question is, what was the most challenging part of your schooling?
Of my schooling?
Yes.
I think so I went to Duquesne University undergrad, and I went to the School of Business and graduated. I went straight to law school, and I think the most challenging part of my schooling was the first year of law school, because that can be very intimidating. And I went to Duquesne Law School as well. And the first year is very difficult because, you know, it's some of the professors there were trying to weed people out, and purposely would call on people and you know, grill people and try to embarrass people, but they were just that's the role that they played. And I think the first year was the toughest, just getting through the exams, and then, you know, getting through law school. And then the other challenging part was studying for the bar exam, because basically you have a couple months. You graduate in May, and then you sit for the bar in July, and you just have a couple months to basically cram everything in that you learned for the last, few years in law school, and then sit for the bar exam. So that was the most challenging. Law school, the first year of law school was the most challenging of my schooling.
What was your most interesting case as a judge?
Well, I've had a few interesting cases. One case that I sat was a preliminary hearing for a homicide where I was the presiding judge. I heard testimony. There was a gentleman who murdered his girlfriend, who was a student at Pitt. This was a few years ago. She actually had a protection from abuse order against him. And that's another thing we can do as district judges. We hear emergency protection from abuse hearings, and we issue emergency orders to protect people that are being threatened and being harassed, being, maybe physically abused. So this young lady had a protection from abuse order against this gentleman, and he broke into her apartment at Pitt in the early morning hours. She had several other roommates who were sleeping at the time, and it was it was a warm evening, if I recall, and they did not hear this gentleman come in, and he went in and he murdered her. I can say that because he was ultimately convicted of the charge. But I heard the preliminary hearing in that case, and the young lady's parents were sitting in the front row in the courtroom. And I could imagine how difficult, looking back now, how difficult it was for them to sit through that and hear testimonies to how their daughter was murdered. That was probably one of the most difficult cases that I've ever dealt with. I've also had some other difficult cases involving sexual assault cases involving young children. Like I said, I've sat in on homicide hearings, preliminary hearings. I'm trying to think of anything else that some interesting cases, but I've had a lot of interesting cases, but that one always sticks out.
My question is, how do you campaign as a judge compared to campaigning like as representatives?
You mean for House of Representatives?
Yeah.
Well, it's a bigger district. It's harder to campaign as a judge for common police court because it's a big county, and typically for a state representative, a House seat, you can probably canvass most of the area, and that's how I believe the most effective way to win an election is to go door to door and canvass and talk to people. Unfortunately, we can't do that as common police court candidates. I mean, there's certain areas that we can go and canvass a few streets, but it's impossible to canvass the whole county. So that's the difference. If I could hit every door, I would, but we don't have the time or the resources to do that. But in the magisterial district, I was able to go probably 3 times and go door knocking. So that's how I believe that's how I won the first race. I did it the second time I ran, but I think just that canvassing and that door knocking and that grassroots really make a difference. But so as a county judge candidate, you have to rely on social media and commercials. I have an ad running on KDKA and radio, and I have a streaming commercial and mailers. Those are the effective ways to reach people, and word of mouth, of course, and networking as much as you can for a countywide race.
Judge Stevens, it's 12:15, and I know you said you had kind of an out at 12:15. So
that's fine. I can stay a few more minutes if some of the students have questions. I'd be happy to answer a couple more questions.
okay. I kind of stopped our questions.
We can open it up if they want to ask me
Anybody
something.
Anybody have a question that you want to ask that we don't have on the sheet? You were very comprehensive in your answer, so I appreciate that totally. But I think we're good. Yeah. Justin, I'll leave it over to you.
Well, thank you very much to both of you. Thank you very much, Judge Stevens, for jumping on and doing this interview. It's really helpful to make sure that the voters in Allegheny County are getting as much information as we can. And so it's wonderful to hear questions from the students' perspective as well. So just a reminder to those watching, Election Day is May 20th. Pennsylvania is a closed primary state, which means that you have to be registered as a Democrat or Republican to vote in either of those tickets. As we heard from Judge Stevens, he is filed as a Democrat. And so if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to his campaign, or you can use 70.org, SEVENTY.org to learn more about the races on your ballot. Thank you very much to Ms. Temmie and her class, and thank you, Judge Stevens. Appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Judge Stevens.
You're welcome. Good luck, guys. Thank you.